Guys, we're doing it. We're talking about parenting plans and child support. I'm Avi Socha, and I am sure that the comments on this video will be very civil, kind, and not at all insane. On the other hand, we understand why people are so passionate about this issue. It affects their well-being and the well-being of their children. Let's confront the essence of this topic. Sometimes, when couples part ways, they have a child they still need to co-parent for the rest of the child's minor life. But how is that relationship managed? What standards are used to establish parenting plans, and who pays for the child's welfare moving forward? These are all important questions, and many people have big feelings about them. Ultimately, we think this requires further study. As always, I have to warn you we will be making a lot of generalized simplifications in this episode, as every state has different laws that are always changing. We want you to know more about this system, but talk to a local attorney if you want specific guidance. Don't get legal advice from YouTube or any platform that mainly hosts cat videos and Mr. Beast. I think a good place to start is with the public policy concerned with parenting plans and child support. We actually talked about this in our adoption episode. In brief, a society simply can't have unattended and destitute children running around like in a Charles Dickens novel, and so the government steps in some ways to regulate how we place children with adoptive homes. The trick here is that the same policy principles apply for naturally born children, both in and out of wedlock. Who's responsible for these kids? No matter the marital status or circumstances of the parents, a child should be cared for and supported. Courts often make rulings to ensure that happens. The important thing to know as we forge ahead with this episode is that generally all these principles apply to all children, whether born in or out of wedlock, whether adopted or natural born. Let's start with parenting plans, also known as custody orders. While all parents have constitutionally protected rights to parent their child as they see fit, those rights are balanced against some practical considerations a court has to grapple with. Parenting plans are simply a court order that structures how you and your ex co-parent your shared child. That can include decision-making authority, residential and overnight time, vacations, dispute resolution processes, holiday divisions, and more. A parenting plan lasts from a child's birth to their 18th birthday, or graduation from high school, your state depending. Note that all parents are entitled to a parenting plan, but when a child is born, a court won't establish one unless a parent asks for it in some way, either as part of a divorce proceeding or in a petition to establish a parenting plan and child support order. And generally, parenting plans and child support orders are not retroactive. They only face forward. What should be in a parenting plan? I don't know. What does your life look like? Maybe one parent lives out of state, so it's better if your child only spends the summers with them. Or maybe you are week on, week off, or every other weekend. Are your kids young? Then maybe it might be better to keep them on a more stable schedule. Are they older? Then maybe something with some variability might be more appropriate. It really all depends on the level of cooperation between the parents and the age, temperament, and needs of the children. You know your kids better than I do. If possible, we always recommend parents work together to decide what is best for their schedules, and maybe adjust the plan every few years as circumstances naturally change. When crafting a parenting plan, it should be specific enough to be clear, but general enough to be flexible. Too many specifics, and you'll quickly find the parenting plan gains too many loopholes and caveats and becomes impossible to effectively enforce. In general, you shouldn't need a spreadsheet to know if you're seeing your child that weekend, and you shouldn't try to overly stipulate every conceivable circumstance ahead of time. Too vague and unclear, and you run into the opposite problem. Your parenting plan isn't specific enough to be helpful for you. You typically see a well-crafted parenting plan adjusted 2 to 4 times as the child grows older, their parents move around, and their needs naturally change. But let's say you can't agree on a parenting plan. In that case, the court is going to make a custody order for you, and not based on what's best for the parent, or the parent's vacation plans, or the parent's new sweetheart, but best interest of the child. That means that the government is going to come in and try to guess your child's best interests at arm's length. While you can motion for specific provisions, whether you get them is another story. Courts generally think that it is in the best interest of the child to spend time with both parents, even if you hate each other's guts. While it can sometimes be minimized, taking parenting time away from another spouse completely is extremely difficult for this reason. Barring some narrow exceptions, expect a steep uphill battle if you want exclusive custody. You'll have to prove cutting a parent out of the child's life is in that child's best interest, which is a really tough case to make. Similarly, we often run into circumstances where a child does not want to spend time with the other parent. Here in Washington, you as a parent are obligated to do everything possible to give the other parent their parenting time in good faith. That includes punishing an uncooperative child, bribing them to go, trying to convince them to go, but a court is generally not going to make you physically drag your child to the other parent's custody. And we see this general policy exercised across a lot of jurisdictions. But the big thing to know here is that parenting plans and custody enforcement is incredibly fact-specific. But parenting plans and other orders are subject to the court's contempt powers and can be enforced by the courts if a parent is uncooperative. See our episode on contempt here. I actually think courts have a pretty tough job here. They're coming in late to the situation, they don't know you, and they don't know your children, no matter how much they read about you. But they still have a strong mandate to step in. And it can be hard to know what circumstances is best for the child when both parents are in the middle of a lengthy court battle trying to kill each other. Sometimes literally. Even so, courts often get things wrong, and many judges will freely admit that dividing up your child's life in court is like performing surgery with a chainsaw. Most families would probably prefer a scalpel. Whenever possible, we always recommend negotiating with the other parent to decide how your child should grow up, even if you aren't together anymore. You are probably familiar with child support, monthly payments to support the raising of a child. And the reasoning here is pretty clear. Children are expensive and both parents should chip in. Child support generally lasts until the child is an adult. But bear in mind, post-secondary support can apply in some circumstances, but even then, it must generally be requested before the child turns 18. Whatever form they take, these payments generally go hand in hand with parenting time, as the parent doing the majority of the raising is usually presumed to bear a majority of the costs. Here in Washington, child support is calculated via strict formula based on parenting time, the proportional income of both spouses, and a few other factors. But other states apply a variety of examinations. Some just look at the comparative incomes of both parents. Others apply more judicial discretion. Some use flat rates, and others use their own formulas entirely. Who knows? Maybe the quadratic formula is involved. Before you ask, no. You can't give up your parenting rights to escape child support obligations. While you can give up your parenting time, child support isn't for your co-parent, it's for the child. And since the child is inherently a minor, they can't give up their child support rights until they are an adult, and the point is moot anyways. Also, come on dude, that's kind of skeevy. The only way to escape child support is if another adult assumes the rights and responsibilities from you. And we talked about this process in a prior episode. It's called adoption. That's right, we're referencing our own episodes. Welcome to Further Study Inception. And fun fact, if you are behind on child support, the US federal government may refuse to renew your passport, trapping you in the country. So even if you unlawfully keep your child support money, you won't get to spend it on a fancy vacation. Similarly, you also can't critique how the other spouse spends their child support. Parents have broad discretion on how to run their household and a constitutional right to parent their child as they see fit. And you wouldn't want the government second-guessing your spending habits anyways. Keep in mind that you generally need to go to a court to ask for a parenting plan and child support order. They are not established automatically. If you have a child and want a divorce, then you'll have to establish them as part of that dissolution process. But if you were never married, then one parent needs to file with the court to get the party started, legally speaking. Again, these actions are not automatic. Once they are established, note that you need permission to modify their terms, and you are bound to strict adherence until they are officially changed. For example, if you are paying child support and are laid off from your job and can't find new employment, you might need to go to court to modify the order per the change in circumstances. Simply stopping payments without court approval, even for good reason, may not be a good idea. In this scenario, if you simply ignore your child support obligations, even if it's because you earnestly can't pay them, then that past arrear generally remains outstanding. And I do not mean outstanding in a good way. Similarly, problems can also arise if you are obligated to pay child support through a government exchange, as sometimes happens in some states, but instead make payments directly to the other co-parent. We've seen circumstances where judges haven't let our clients off the hook for their outstanding child support, even though they've technically paid every penny they owed. Look, all I'm trying to say is this: be very careful when going off script when child support is involved. Not following the terms of your orders can have profound consequences for both you and your child later down the line. At the same time, if you need support and want structured parenting time, you have to go to court and ask for it. The government won't want to get involved otherwise. This episode, we discussed parenting plans and child support, how parenting plans are structured court orders designed to help you co-parent and meet the best interests of your child, and how child support is paid in support of the interests of your child and not the other spouse. Next week, we'll be discussing pre- and post-nuptial agreements, what they are, why they're a sensitive issue, and why they can save you an enormous amount of money. And please, don't read the comments under this episode. Thanks for watching this episode of Further Study, which was filmed at our studio in Toronto, Canada. Support Further Study on Patreon to keep our content free for anyone who wants to learn. Thanks so much, guys. I'll see you soon.